practical classes, I thought about something, about two things to be more exactly, and it's how many students does teachers have, and how architecture could change due to COVID-19. Talking about the first one, since I was at school, since I was a child, I thought that having between 40 and 50 classmates were the most common thing. At least it was common in public schools, but not in private ones. Actually, when you think about it, this is really difficult for teachers to teach to so many students. So when I started having my practical classes, I saw that in one of these classes there were almost 61, 62 children connected. What we decided, the teacher Johanna, was to divide them into having two groups of 30 students, and even so it was lots of people. Also, I realized that even in primary grades, there's still happening. Overcrowding is still happening in Colombia's classrooms. And then in this pandemic context nowadays, will make things more difficult. Well, it is supposed that to prevent the contagious, we must have at least 2 meters of distance between one and others. But as I said, public schools in Colombia are overcrowded. No with 30 students, no with 40 students, sometimes it rises to 50 students. Just imagine to teach classes to 50 students, and sometimes you even don't know if they understand what you're teaching to them, if they understand what you're talking to them about. So this is absolutely too difficult. And also, having these overcrowded classrooms would shoot up the risk of students to be contagious. Even if the man says that coming back classes will be by alternation, that means some students at schools while the others are in their houses. This won't be the exactly solution. To prevent this COVID-19 in Colombian public schools context, it's necessary to change and to think and to reflect about how overcrowded schools affects the infection of COVID-19. So this is really important to think about pandemic context and overcrowded classrooms. The second point, which is also as important as the first one, is about the possibility of anti-COVID schools. Why say this? Here's an example about how it will work. Just give an idea. In Europe, between the 19th century, there was a pandemic that all the countries had, and most of the times the biggest cities were the most affected. And was tuberculosis. This little room here was responsible for the death of many youth people between, as I said, the 19th century and the 20th century. The bacillus, this bacillus, was able to live in the darkest and dirtiest places. So, sunlight, clean air, clean rooms, and to take rest were the solution to prevent and to cure this disease. So, when architects knew how to cure and how to prevent tuberculosis, many of them started to build schools and hospitals in order to prevent and fight this disease. The first solution was to build buildings with huge windows in order to the sunlight and clean air were able to go through all the classrooms. Also, it happened the same in the hospitals. Also, many aerodynamic furnitures were created as well. This in order that the dust weren't able to get in through the corners of sofas, chairs, tables. So this is how modern architecture were created due to tuberculosis pandemic. So this is an example of how a pandemic could change the way to build buildings, not just schools, not just hospital, but houses, apartments, and everything we know. Right now, in Colombia, we must think about architecture and overcrowded classrooms. Nowadays, it's happening exactly the same. Now, with the time, room, houses, apartments, every building is created in order to use the less space as possible. But right now, is it to live in small houses or apartments the best for our health? Maybe it doesn't. And it's something we need to change and something we need to really think about it. This in order to prevent students, teachers, doctors, our families to get infected of COVID-19. Bye bye.